Slaves! Die, slaves! Blah, blah, evil, evil. Okay, there we go. Got it out of the way. Actually, no, this episode is pretty well done, but again, the fact that it's based on the comic probably has something to do with that. Will this be a good time to mention that slavery is still illegal in the Republic? And I only bring that up not because it's like, oh, they shouldn't have slavery because it's illegal. Obviously, making something illegal does not make it not happen, especially if you don't have the ability to enforce that. Again, this is just more evidence of exactly what the Old Republic was like. Because slavery was illegal. And this is a nice, big, public slave auction. Now, I know, separatist protection, blah, blah, blah. So, I do have to admit, why did they have Ahsoka being a slave here? I mean, I guess that was the only logical choice. I don't know. But I did like the, unhand me, brigand! It's just really... There's a couple huts in this episode, and I only bring that up because I still like the variety of huts they added in this show. It's one of the things I think they did a good job with. Now, I find it funny to me that Anakin has to swallow his pride, his idealism, his personal beliefs, in order to play a slaver. Literally watch as a slave commit suicide rather than submit to slavery, which is the kind of thing that he would understand and agree with. And yet, he has to swallow his pride and play the role, whereas it is Obi-Wan, the one who's usually more mature and responsible about things, who is the one who ends up losing his cool and breaking character in order to help rescue a slave. Yeah, one slave, too. One person. Granted, it's the leader, but still. There's some very overt parallels to Return of the Jedi, which I'm not going to cover really quick. I also love the moment when Anakin gets up. Like, there's a lot of things he could have done in that second, but the first thing he does is he just force chokes her. You can just feel the dark side pouring through him in that moment of just raw, repressed rage. Rage at slavers in general, and at the fact that he had to pretend to be one, and all the crap he just had to go through. That's just like, alright, dams burst. Arrgh. And then, of course, she controls him the only way she can, by threatening the people he cares about. Although, she made a very, very serious, grievous risk in trying to do so. Later on, she also tries to control him in a fairly typical control other people manner. It boils down to the idea that you have the freedom of choice, and I'm offering you the freedom of choice, but it is your choice that will affect that which you care about, whether it's people or yourself or your territory or whatever, right? Whatever it is they're holding hostage against you. You're the one who's responsible for their fate, not me. I'm not the one holding them hostage. I'm not the one who's going to electrocute them or torture them or kill them. It's you that's doing that. Classic trying to shift the focus point of the fixation of the person they're trying to control onto their target and themselves rather than the person who's actually responsible for this crap. I do like the scene with Ahsoka just meditating in the cage. Very Jedi. I like that. I don't like the fact that she just kind of tosses the guy over the edge just a little bit, and then he electrocutes her because he's evil. I would have liked it much. I would have seriously applauded if she was just like, whoosh, and he just went flying to his death. Yeah, there'd probably still be consequences, but it would have made that scene so much more satisfying. Question. Why are only 3 Jedi involved in this? I know this is supposed to be a little bit of an infiltration mission, and they're supposed to be trying to figure out what's going on and, investigate and rescue the people and blah, blah, blah. And I know there's a war going on, but A, surely they can afford to send something else other than just these 4, or 5, excuse me. And B, since these people are more or less officially allied with the Separatists, you'd think you could militarily justify the expenditure of sending actual ships and troops to the situation, right? Just food for thought. I actually only have one other thing to comment, just looking at my notes here really quick. First of all, I only briefly mentioned the suicide. That was actually one of the strongest scenes for me personally. We have to center back to processing. They mention processing several times, and they mention it in such a cold, horrible fashion. You can tell what it is. It's breaking someone down to make them compliant, which is disgusting and horrible. And I'm not going to try to make a joke here. It's awful. If I was one of those people who was being threatened with processing, I'd jump over a cliff too. I wouldn't have even hesitated like she did. Just, nope, done. No thank you. And I just wanted to mention that that really helps to emphasize the level of, the specific type and variety and level of evil that this woman represents, because to her, this is just normal. Which brings me to my last point. The method they use of control is actually somewhat lackluster because it only really works so long as so long as they either maintain an absolute level of control over circumstances and environment, and so long as they don't actually have. I feel like I just talked about this in Star Trek Deep Space Nine with an episode I just covered. Through a Mirror Darkly, I think. Or no, not that one. Through the Looking Glass. That's the episode, Through the Looking Glass. Because if you make it so that the consequences of being compliant are equally as horrible, or even more horrible, as the consequences of, being uncompliant, being rebellious or fighting, you have officially created a situation where anyone who has the sufficient oomph or power or mental drive or whatever energy is still left in them to fight back are going to, because why not? I feel like I just brought this up when it comes to the clones, and it's like, well, if we follow orders, we die horribly, and if we don't follow orders, we die horribly. So what's the difference? I feel like they make that mistake here. We'll see where this goes, of course, next time. I'll see you there. Ah.